I think like for me, like in the space of 12 months, we've basically gone from being in a position where it's like, can this actually even sustain itself or like be viable? And I should maybe even go and get a job whilst I do this. Or literally, because of this system, the business is at a point where I'm thinking about how can we set it up so in 3 to 5 years time I can sell this thing. So I was in the mindset of Facebook isn't working, Facebook doesn't work anymore, iOS 14 killed Facebook. Exactly. So it kind of hit a point in October, November time when I realized, shit, I need to make a change as soon as possible. Otherwise we could go under within 12 months of launch. So things very quickly got off the rails from when we had started. This was like January 2021, just to give some timeline to it. And then now we're talking like September 2021. So in 9 months, we built up to like 200K a month pretty much in May. But then things quickly dropped off. And then bringing in the agency just expedited that process because we were doing stuff badly on Facebook and all they did was, expedite that process.
Yeah.
They came in, launched 10 more campaigns, 100 ad sets full of interest groups, just targeting every single interest group you can imagine. No creative strategy, basically copying and pasting the ads that I already had and just running it towards interest groups, despite being promised, making new ads and stuff. And I charged 7.5K a month for that service. So I decided to cut ties with the agency, stripped everything back, so pulled away from all the advertising channels and just basically reassessed our situation.
This is over with, this thing's done, and like maybe I need to do something else, like this business, like I caught it, that's great, maybe I can figure out another business that hopefully will work, but I got all this inventory, X, Y, and Z, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
that's what it was. And for me in that situation, I had a decent amount of inventory, and I decided, okay, Facebook's not the one, so I decided to move over to TikTok, and I kind of made it work for 3 or 4 months, doing the same stuff, interest-based targeting on TikTok, and we kind of got to a decent level again where the business was making enough money to kind of sustain itself and make it a worthwhile venture. And that kind of brings us into like February, March 2022, where we decided, all right, TikTok's doing well, let's give this Facebook thing another crack. And at that point came back in and tried to copy what was doing well on TikTok, which was multiple campaigns, dozens of interest groups, and not very many ads and not much creative strategy at all. So in essence, doing what we were doing when things went really badly in September, but naivety and all, and it just didn't work. Then I kind of it must have been like a stroke of, it must have just been pure luck, but I think you had like 300, it wasn't even, I think it was under 100 subscribers at that point, your main one, your Charlie T. And I came across it and started consuming the content, and I really, really liked your methodology. Less stress, more success.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully not more stress. I mean, maybe at this point a little bit, but I kind of got a glimpse into what you were doing. I had to kind of piece it together for myself, obviously, because it's just the YouTube and your whole one campaign, 322 DCTs. And I said to myself, okay, things are going very badly right now, doing this complex system. Let's sit down, look at the numbers, and then come back with something that's an acceptable CPA for us on Facebook, and then try and install this method. And within like the first few DCTs, I kind of came across a few bangers. And obviously from the call the other day, you saw inside of the ad account, April 2022 is one of the ads, one of the longest serving ads has been running to this day. It's still running, that first one.
Over a year.
18 months in, yeah.
That's amazing.
But that, just seeing that happen, it just blew my mind. Like, obviously where I was like, audience targeting is everything. That was my previous mindset. I was like, no interests, no party sort of thing. But seeing that running abroad, getting a considerable amount of conversions within its first few days really of running and just tearing away with spend, it kind of gave me instant belief in obviously you as a person and your teaching. I suppose for anyone it would.
Sure.
Had that not worked, I dread to think where we may be now. But luck was on our side, and it did. And from there, it kind of transitioned on, more DCTs, more success, until I kind of got to a point where I had the one campaign structure set up. You know, I had my 322, had my DC, you know, my 2 DCTs. You know, I had my my sticky note with the 2 DCTs and my one improving.
Like one of these.
That's it. I pieced that together from the YouTube.
Nice.
But we kind of hit a point where the proving ground was just going away with spend, and nothing I could produce could deliver results. And this is now like June 2022, where, you know, naturally you start to see stuff drop off.
Yeah.
You know, that 6-week period that you talk about, which we've hopefully, as you say, it said in your email this morning, just got out the back of, because we could really do with it right now. Yeah, we were kind of in that period, and again, I was starting to have some, like, not complacency, but just, you know, just not really being too sure with what to do next. And
sure, a lack of confidence in the direction, because I love the fact that just doing the free stuff got you from, I might not be able to do this, to, oh my God, this is great. What else can I do to even take more advantage of it? Like, that's phenomenal. It makes me just so happy.
The free stuff got us back to 6 figures, basically what we were doing the previous year, when stuff was like 10x ROAS, which I think says a lot, actually. You know, we were at 10x ROAS at that point, because that's what the number that we cared about. But then we switched to, obviously, the CPA model and the PS. At that point, I suppose I didn't know it was PSM, but I kind of actually was working. And then doing that got us back to that same revenue. But yeah, like you said, I kind of hit a point of diminishing returns. I really, really liked you as a person, just all your content on YouTube, and decided, yeah, let me kind of search this guy up, see what more he has to offer. You know, at that point, I wanted to speak to you one-on-one, not knowing that you had the MBA program. And I think, you know, you and I sat down in I think July time, had a chat about the MBA, and yeah, I had like 100% confidence that it was going to work. It was just a matter of time. So obviously we went ahead with it, sat down for a week or two, consuming all of the MBA content, which is just, again, what is inside of the YouTube is completely different to what is inside of the MBA. What is in the MBA kind of gives you the answer that you've been looking for with the YouTube, and it certainly did with me. You know, I don't know how far you want me to go into it in terms of,
you can do whatever you want. Like, talk about whatever worked for you. I have nothing to hide. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I do all of this stuff. Inside the MBA, it's a watch as I'm giving you all the SOPs, the frameworks, the documentation, going from 0 to full. And there's hours of lecture and discussion, and even, like, there's no way to make that an engaging YouTube video that would get any views.
It would be impossible to have that, to even post that on YouTube, let alone make it worthwhile for you for it to get views. But anyway, you know, besides that, I think when I first came in, I just decided, let's just sit down and watch all of the lectures and watch all of the content first before I take action. Immediately, I knew that ecosystem ROAS was going to be extremely valuable based on my kind of scratching the surface of PSM. So yeah, I suppose within my first few weeks of the MBA, I knew it was going to be successful. Like I said, it's just a matter of time. And once I kind of had the systems, the processes, you know, ecosystem ROAS, Scrum Doc, all that type of stuff implemented, that's when we were kind of just like ready to kind of, okay, let's just take this thing and just take it to the next level, because we had confidence in what we were doing at that point. I've got to say as well, you know, Golden Bear was definitely another moment. It was Golden Bear was like the moment that I had when I discovered 322.
Gotcha. That just like, oh my God, like you just leveled up.
Yeah, it was exactly that. You know, with 322, I was like, so I've been doing post IDs when I could have just done this and let Facebook find the winner for me.
Yeah.
And wasting money that way. But then Golden Bear was like, I've been running DCTs without even, you know, verifying that the assets inside of it are at all useful for Facebook's business.
Yeah, like you're still kind of hoping to get lucky on your decisions with DCTs building from scratch. And now Golden Bear just like, oh, I can try 1,000 ideas. Oh, these 5 work? Great. I'll just go make money. Like, that's it. I find it to be like a little bit humorous almost when looking back at like how hard I worked
Yeah.
building all of this stuff before I had it all developed and figured it all out. Just like, and I see people all the time and just like how hard they're working on things to try to replicate getting lucky. And like we had the lecture like last week, it's not about getting lucky. It's not about finding the one ad that's going to help you spend $1 million. It's about building the system that manufactures the ads that can spend $1 million over and over and over again. And like that DCT and Control Ground, the one campaign is the factory that does it. And then when you get Golden Bear, your hit rate is just like, it makes me feel so happy to see all the confidence that people get out of it and the smile when you're talking about it. It's just like, oh my God, like it's great.
Because you can see it's worked. Like it just makes so much sense to run Golden Bear. And obviously, you know, without being in the MBA program, I would have never known about it. So yeah, there's that. But being able to run stuff for so cheap, and then, you know, verifying, okay, how many clicks does it get? What's the estimated action rate? If you'd asked me the year, you know, even a few months before I joined the MBA program, what estimated action rate is, I would have said, what the fuck is that? And I would, at that point, I would do 100K into Facebook ads, and to not know what estimated action rate, to me, just seems just so stupid. Because yeah, I think it's quite easy to chase your tail without having Golden Bear in place, because at least when you have Golden Bear, at least you've got some type of structure as to what you're testing. Whereas I've actually seen like a few people taking your 3-2-2 method, but they're teaching it in a horrible way. Like obviously you can block this out, but I was watching a few Nick Ferrio videos.
Okay, sure. Yeah, and I won't block it. Like I see it too. I like this last week, I saw like it posted in 5 different places, and I saw some like other really well-regarded folks that know me that have blocked me after personal conversations. Like, I don't even know who that is. This is a crazy idea. See how it works. Like, so 100%. Like, you know, I think people are trying because they didn't go through the MBA, so they don't fully understand it. They're not even in disruptor schools, so they haven't had that hands-on approach. And so they're like, well, I've seen the videos. This is how it's working for me. And it's like, okay, it's better, but it's not quite close to what they could be seeing.
You're still missing the other, you know, the yin to the yang.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work without, one doesn't work without the other. But yeah, anyway, in his videos, he's just like saying, okay, we're going to launch X amount of DCCs per week. And it's just, but again, I was just thinking, but you're still guessing.
Yeah, I see so many people that still, and I still see it to this day, people are like, well, the path is just like, all right, new ads do better than old ones. Okay. And new pockets of audiences like are bringing me new customers. So what I need to do is launch as many ads as possible to reach as many pockets of customers to try to get as many wins as I can. And like, they're not realizing that, like, so you're building your entire business off of things that last for 3 days, 5 days, 7 days in a way that makes everything that happens after the click almost impossible to improve. When you say it out loud, I can't find anybody that defends the idea of like, the way to have consistency and projectable results to reliably predict outcomes and scale your business is to make the front end completely unstable and unpredictable.
Yeah, like, it's stupid. Why not want that? So, I mean, kind of, I suppose, moving on, you know, we really started to see some very strong success with the entire program within the first few weeks of really joining. Once we had obviously the systems, processes in place, we kind of were at like September 2022, I want to say. So not even that long ago. But at that point, I still didn't have, for some reason, I still didn't have full belief in Golden Bear. Yeah, we kind of got to a point where we were like, okay, we've got a solid, we had built out a control campaign at that point, and we had separated our one campaign, which was now our testing campaign, from the control campaign. And we were seeing a lot of success with that. And then we decided also as well to bring in the whole automated rules system.
Nice.
So we were at a point where we were spending like a considerable amount of money per day on Facebook. But then it was just, at that point, it was just like, okay, cool. What's the next ad that's going to come in and just swallow up spend and take us to the next level? And Golden Bear completely unlocked that for us. In I'd say like December 2022, we came across some pretty strong performers that you would have seen in the creative strategy call the other day with Sarah. As soon we had one that's still running again today. As soon as it came into the account from, you know, fresh out of Golden Bear into DCC, it just exploded in spend. we couldn't, we pushed the budget higher and higher in testing until we just thought, fuck it, let's just drop it into control and see what happens. And immediately took over spend. And we're in Q1 of this year, we did our entire revenue for the previous year.
Wow.
In the 3 months.
That kind of says a lot.
Yeah, it was a nice way to start the year. And we were able to massively scale. We were able to 3x the spend in the space of 3 months. We're still hovering at about around that level because, whilst April and May were good, June has been.
Hey, look, if you're pulling back to only doing in 3 months what you did the previous 12, like, you've got bigger. That's not the world's biggest problem. You know what I mean? Like, that's okay. And come Q3, Q4, I'm sure you'll double that. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what we're building towards. I've kind of just accepted it for what it is. Where, June, this month is CPA just is going to be a bit higher inside of our ecosystem, and that's fine. We've got the room to allow for that. For me, these past few months, it's just been about, okay, what can we now do off of Facebook? How can we improve the website? How can we improve Amazon listings? We obviously do a lot of business on Amazon. And then one other thing, actually, speaking of Amazon, is when I first came in, I had no idea how to integrate Amazon with the ecosystem ROAS until I just decided, how about I just take total sales from the business divided by total advertising spend, and just have those columns built out inside of my ecosystem ROAS and Scrum Doc, and just run the entire business based on how much did we spend on advertising overall, Facebook, Google, so forth. How much money did we make? And I can sleep easily running the business that way. It's just so much easier than trying to hit a $20 CPA on Facebook, 15 on TikTok, 10 on Google.
Yeah, like the idea of the idea of chasing an attribution based solution to revenue doesn't, like, it's a nightmare. Like, I've done that where I had a 6-figure daily budget across 5 different platforms for like a 9-figure business, and it would take 3 days to figure out what happened the week before. 6 months later, I was ready to just jump off a bridge. Like, there's just like, I mean, the worst part, the next year we were in the exact same place we were the year prior, because all I had done was chase my tail on more or less the universal things that were happening in the environment. Oh, Q1 super cheap, Q2 gets bad, in the summer things are terrible, Q3, Q4 just normal consumer behavior. And when it came back around, I was in the exact same place where I started. And a lot of what we talk about in the MBA is some of the solutions and tools that I built to not have that problem the next year. And well, the next year we were at a spot that was about 4 times bigger than when we started. And within 12 months of that, Deloitte bought the business and I was no longer there. So like, it was a great thing. 15 to 95 in about 18 months, basically following that path, which is great, and that's what
I love about the MBA, because it's a system that you've used to get a business that got bought by Deloitte. I think that says everything that you need to know. And I think the other thing that I like about the MBA is what you just touched on, where you're talking about the whole like dynamic throughout the year. You're creating content and teaching us stuff that is relevant to what's going to happen next. So like February or was it January, I think this year, you were talking about, let's start to implement some Reeb upsells. Let's build in some stuff that, increases our basket value before, June time comes around, where your CPA is just naturally going to rise. So it's almost like working with someone who is working 3 months ahead of you.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah.
A decent compliment. There's a compliment in there somewhere.
I love it. Yeah. And I think that's something too that like maybe we can touch on, is like what you're getting inside of it isn't just like some pre-recorded course by somebody that may or may not even do the work. Like, I think you've talked about this SOPs and the frameworks, and every week we have a new class that's like half lecture and then half Q&A, and it's supposed to be an hour, but some of those classes have gone almost 2 because like people got questions. It's like if you show up, you're gonna leave with your answer.
That's it. Exactly. I think that's so valuable as well, because like, moving on from the SOPs and frameworks and the previous lectures, which everything's recorded. So I've gone back and watched like probably at this point like 90 hours worth of lectures.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But that's like the beauty of it, that it's not just a pre-recorded course with a few smashed up Google Docs, Google Sheets, and you kind of bring people in and you're like, okay, there you go, just follow that and you'll learn. Every single Thursday, you know, without fail, you're inside of the Zoom call with a brand new lecture that's relevant to the time of year, relevant to what we've been speaking about inside of the, you know, the Facebook group or the Slack. And then obviously at the end, it's you know, full-blown Q&A based on the struggles that you know, we've had in that previous week. You know, we can come to you and just be like, this has happened, what should I do? And you get immediate advice on a you know, a question that is, you know, is a burning question, because, you know, it's relevant to that week. And if not, that's fine. You know, you can, you know, I've raised questions to you before. You know, I'm thinking of doing this in a few weeks' time. What are your thoughts? What would your strategy be for that? And yeah, I think it's just the access level that you get inside of the MBA just makes the initial investment just so worth it. I've said it to so many people, like the best, I don't know what the price is now, so don't quote me on it, but the best 10K I've ever spent is for the MBA program.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, the price has basically always stayed the same. I know there are folks that are like, you could do more, you could do less. My thing is just like, the honest truth is, I don't want it to be, I always say this, like, we exist in a space where nobody could legitimately pay us the right amount. You know, like, one of my favorite quotes is Hank Azaria, one of the voices of the guys, he's like a quarter of the cast of The Simpsons. And let's say he's paid like 5 million a year, 10 million a year. I heard an interview with him and this guy, Mark Maron, and he went in and he's like, I'm at the same time both wildly overpaid and wildly underpaid for my job. Let's say he makes 10 million a year. He goes into a vocal booth and records stupid voices for a children's show for like 2 weeks. And he makes like, let's say 8 figures. That's ridiculous. And then you realize also he's like a quarter of the voices on $1 billion industry. So he's getting paid a fraction of what he's worth. And my point to that is, like, I think any media buyer, whether you're a brand owner or whatever, but the concept of the media buying, of the running the ads, like, you could pay somebody $100, you could pay somebody 100,000. There's no way that, like, their value is how the operator uses it. And so for me, like, the business model around the MBA program and that entry point around that number is always been, how do we make it accessible enough that, like, anybody could get into it, right? Like, anybody can make this work. And I think that for me, one of the values isn't like, I mean, I could charge 100K and I probably would get, maybe I get 1/10 the amount of customers, my unit economics look the same. But one of the things that I value the most about the MBA and I love is on the weekly calls and inside the community, every new person is bringing in new knowledge and new problems. And like, on those calls, I get messages from so many people that are like, the question somebody that they didn't know asked that they weren't even thinking about was the fix to the problem they weren't even aware of until like 2 weeks later. And like, you're talking about, like, I go back and read watch the old lectures. It's somebody else's question from like 3 months ago or June of last year, where their answer was the problem that you face tomorrow that you weren't even aware of. And for me, I think that there's so much more value in there that I try to make it ultimately accessible for the people that want to do it. And yeah, so like that's why it's always been, I don't want to cheapen it by, you know, everybody in there, I think, yeah, everybody in there is made the investment to buy in.
I think you've got a sweet spot with it, to be honest, where it's obviously for most people coming into it, it is a pretty significant investment, but it's at the same time, it's not too cheap where it obviously devalues your incredible work for it. And at the same time, it doesn't devalue it to the point where we jump on a call and there's like 100 people in there and there's
exactly
the chat box is loaded up with questions, and people just think, oh fuck, my question is never going to get answered here, there's no point, and then you kind of just give up on the system, and at that point you'll probably have people knocking on your door asking for their money back. So I think
and I've done that where it was like $500 to join the thing, and the call that's supposed to be 45 minutes is 3 hours, and you wait like 90 minutes to get a 2-minute response to something. We're like, well, that's not good enough, but there's 20 people behind me, so okay.
The thing is as well, though, like you say that, like you wait 90 minutes to get a 2-minute response. The point you've got it at now is like, I've asked you questions and we've had a full-on half an hour, full-blown discussion, and you have other people chiming in, and it just goes on and on and on, but it's not going on for the sake of going on. There's just value upon value upon value inside of it.
And I've always said, like, if the program triples in size or grows by 10x, my fix won't be to bring on a success consultant. I'll just add another call. Like, the amount of time it would take for me to satisfy 5 times more students in those calls. Like, oh, okay, well, we'll just do another lecture. Maybe we'll do one that's set up for the Europeans, and we'll do another one that's later in the day so the Australians and Americans can hop in, and like, it's fine. Like, there's so much more opportunity there. So like, the bandwidth isn't like, I hate seeing things, and I hear stories about it all the time. And so many people come into the MBA that have gone through other premium Slack groups or training things with other like coaches and gurus where that person never shows up. And there's some employee kind of reading a script that can't answer the question. You just feel like, why am I here? You know, like, how many times have you gone to an ad agency and like the person that's like the star is on the sales call and you never see them again?
Yeah, don't say that, because the agency that I spoke of earlier in the call, that is exactly what happened. Exactly, like to the letter.
And it's like,
amazing salesperson on the call promised the world, I thought this is going to be the best thing ever, the business is going to take off, and what happened was the complete opposite. So yeah, but you know, to your point where you're talking about being present in the Slack, I just think that's so important, and it's just one of the things that if I were you, I wouldn't change a thing in the whole that you've got. I wouldn't change a thing because you've got it perfect.
I have no intention of changing anything other than like, I've got a couple of ideas right now. I'm working on like this AI thing to like help make more entry-level questions even more answerable based off of all of the things. Like, one of the things I'm doing is I'm trying to synthesize all of the lectures so that you could ask a question and the archive of the lectures just spit you back the answer. So you don't have to watch. I'm working on it. I started on Sunday. I now have one that basically works like YouTube with a B+ answer. It's like a really good employee.
That's probably one of definitely for maybe not so much an MBA, but in disruptor school I do see it a lot more, where you're getting some really, really basic questions, and you know, not to call anyone out or anything, but you just see it sometimes and you're like, oh.
Yeah. And I think what I would love to know, I mean, one, I think we talked a lot about the MBA. Like, what is your opinion about the difference between the MBA and disruptor school and how it's worked? Because I get that question probably 3 times a week. I got one today in my DMs on Instagram where somebody's like, what's the difference between the MBA program and disruptor school?
Yeah. Okay. So I came, probably now you've got it at a different point where people come into disruptor and then they go up into MBA, but I came in the complete opposite way, where like I came into the MBA and literally I think I joined disruptor school like 2 months ago or something like that, and I came in August 2022. So it took me like 10 months really to join. And I think it's just like, it's tough because like with MBA you've obviously got basically everything in one place, and then you've also got the Facebook group, but at points in the MBA, and don't get me wrong, you've also got the weekly call, but I felt like maybe there wasn't as much of like a live community where you can just like pop a message into like a group chat or something and just have a chat with people, and at the same time like see people's questions and that. And then at the same time I knew from speaking to other MBA people, there's the disruptor school where that exists and you can speak to people, but at the same time it's not just so narrowed in on Facebook and the whole 322, the whole process that you teach. Disruptor school kind of, just for me anyway, it takes a step back and looks at other problems, you know. there's just so much stuff that I could talk about, but yeah, it just, I think MBA is like it's more of like a narrow lens, whereas with disruptor school is like a 360-degree full panoramic view where, okay, yeah, it could be slightly overwhelming to some people, but you know, at the same time, nothing in the disruptor school seems to go way too specific where it just becomes, this is too much. And I think that's just what the MBA program does well. It goes, what's your saying for it? A mile wide.
Yeah, so I think of the disruptor school as an inch deep, mile wide. It's all the connective tissue. It's got answers to everything that you need. The MBA program is, how do I become like one of the best in the world at this one very specific. If I want to run Facebook ads and I want to do it in a way where I'll never have to pay anybody else to ever do it again, and it requires an extremely small amount of time of my week, and my bank account is going to explode as a result. That's the MBA. Once I have that, or maybe I already have a business that's working, the disruptor school is great for everybody that's got a successful business, but needs to figure out all the other pieces. Like there's, you know, and that's really the idea is, I think there's a lot of folks that'll take you, that'll promise you the moon and you can get going. I'm not a teach you how to crawl, right? Like disruptor school is get you from like walk to run. And the MBA program will make you like an Olympic level runner, right? But you're not going to learn how to do the other things.
I think that's what makes it so valuable though, because, you know, we've all been in them groups where it's just like, it's literally crawling pace and you just get the same questions regurgitating and it's just the same old answers. And you just think at some point, you just think, fuck this, I'll just save myself the money each month and I'll just leave. Whereas in the disruptor school, yeah, I think it's a fine line between getting people in who, you know, are still at that pace, and, you know, nothing against them, you know, we all start somewhere.
Yeah.
But when you're investing a considerable amount of money each month into something, you perhaps don't want to be at a point where you're seeing like complete beginner questions. You want to know that people are on the same bandwidth as you. And I think that's what the disruptor school does well, because, you know, I just know for a fact there's people in there that know so much about their field, and like you say, it really is a mile wide. I think that's probably the best way to answer that question, in all honesty.
Like when Sarah comes in and does the classes, right? Or Raul's masterclass on the Google Ads stuff, and all the other instructors. I'm working on being more and more of them available. I think the ability to kind of tap into that excellence to round out everything is what it's all about.
Yeah, no, exactly that. And that's like something that we've not even spoken about. The fact that you bring in special guests in their field is just insane. Like for, you know, the creative strategy call that we had on Friday, like I messaged you in the MBA call on Thursday and I was like, hey, I wouldn't mind Sarah having a look at my stuff. I'm kind of struggling at the moment in terms of CPA and producing some new stuff. And you're like, okay, cool, let's do it. And yeah, the value that she provided was like insane, and it's exactly what I was looking to hear. And yeah, it's been a fun week, kind of making some of that content, particularly with the one that you sent me on Amazon. We've been doing all sorts of stuff to that thing, chucking it around, pouring water over it, everything. So yeah, I just think it's just a full, it's just like a universe really for Facebook ads, and just knowing you've got support, it just makes life so much easier, because every single day there's a new challenge that arises with it.
You're talking about something here that I think is most important to me, is that like I remember being in that place like 7-8 years ago where I knew that nobody else in the room understood what I was doing, and I couldn't ask for help from anybody that understood what I was doing. And at the time, like I could go to Facebook groups and I could try things out, but like their answer doesn't fit my business. Like their answer doesn't fit my measurement or my testing. So now most of the answers you get are either from people that are trying to sell you something or that have nothing to do with what you're doing. So the insights you get are almost like there's no actionability on the advice you get. And so it becomes,
I think that's where the MBA program is just, for me, just like so beautiful, because everyone is following the same nomenclature. We're all following the same system. So if I've got a question on one particular thing about that system, there's 10 other people already who have the answer to it because they were there 3 months ago or 6 months ago or whatever. And that's what makes it just so different to, just like you say, just a normal Facebook group.
Yeah. And I think that's ultimately sort of the idea, is like, the secret sauce is what I'm really doing is, I mean, I'm there to help. But if I can level up everybody so that the connections you make with other people allow you to satisfy all of the other things, because at the end of the day, like, you've been in it long enough, like, Facebook isn't, you're not like uncovering brand new things. You're not like, oh my God, this is the new button that I need to hit. Like, so like, it's all that, all of the other stuff. And I mean, I've seen you engage with other people too, where like you're asking questions, people are engaging, and vice versa. And that community. And I feel like there's so much missing from what people want inside of mastermind groups or like meetups. And like, it's so singular and myopic. And the idea that it's, nobody's trying to sell anything. Everybody's speaking about the same documentation. Everybody's business is different too. Like, your business is completely different than somebody else's, but because Facebook is software, it works the same for everyone. Like, there's no reason that you can't share information and understand what's happening. And I like I said, I think the secret power of it is just how many great people are in, and every new person that joins makes it better. And ultimately, what I talk about all the time is investing in assets that appreciate in value. And the fact that like it's effectively, you've already made the payments, you've already done the thing. It's a lifetime access, like, you're already in. And just every week there's more value that you can come back and tap that well over and over and over again. I think that like that's the whole idea.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me anyway, my closing point on it would probably be just having that community there, because where I was anyway, and I'm sure you've probably got people trying to apply for the MBA now, you've probably got a lot of young guys that started their business, seen some success, and they've got themselves to a certain level, but then as businesses, they've hit a point where they're struggling and they've just got their like girlfriend or their friends who have like a normal job. They have no idea how it actually all works. And I was just like looking around and thinking, nobody actually knows what I'm doing at the moment. And I also at the same time have nobody that I can actually go to and ask a question that I've got, or even just have a chat. Like it, yeah, I actually look forward to having the MBA calls like on a Thursday, because I've worked all week in the office, and it's just a nice time to just sit back a little bit, unwind, listen to something that's completely new and I would have otherwise not thought about, hear some other questions, ask a few questions that I've got, and just the whole community of it is just what makes it so valuable for me.
Yeah, like what I'm hearing and I love, and we'll definitely close it on this, is just like, this path can be so isolating. You can feel so alone, even in a room. Like I've worked in an office of 100 people, and literally there's 2 people I could ever talk about. And they were basically my bosses or the person that was like my employee. And I can't go to my boss and ask for help because like they're busy with other stuff. And I'm directing stuff, and I sure can't go to my employee and be like and like, hey, what are we gonna do? I mean, I tried to, but like the fact that there's just, you don't have to feel alone. And any question that you have, there is a resource to get an answer that applies to your problem that has been proven to work for other people. Like that to me feels invaluable.
That's it. Go on to Slack, type in the keyword, bang. There's a 30-minute video that you've done on it. And I think I probably had it easier than you. You know, like you said, you had a boss and an employee who kind of leaves you in between a rock and a hard place. You can't exactly sit there at a desk and just watch YouTube videos on how to make that work. You kind of have to know. Whereas for me, it was different. I was sat in like a completely empty office. And yeah, like you said, as isolating and as lonely as that is, at least I could go on YouTube and try and make something work. And literally, like, thank fuck I found you on YouTube.
Well, thank you so much, man. I mean, that's what I hope with doing more of these interviews is, and just having conversations with you and anybody else that's watching it, is to like, somebody can say, I'm in a place where this is working. I have questions where I don't know who to trust on the answers. And everywhere I've gone feels like somebody's trying to get something from me, or what works for them doesn't work for me. And the MBA program is a solution to that problem in a way where, I mean, we don't have people that are failing. Like that's the other thing. Like, how many people are you sitting there be like, this doesn't work? Like, nobody.
Yeah. And they would, if it wasn't, they would say that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like,
I wouldn't be quiet about it. Okay.
it's been going for years and that hasn't happened. Like, I think that says a lot. And we've had people come in with stuff that's failing, that are building family businesses now. We've had people do exits. We've had everything under the sun, from lead gen and insurance companies to like pet brands, like D2C, SaaS, lead gen, e-com, ad agency owners, marketers, brand owners. Folks like yourself are kind of the have to do everything, and then you just hire the other people so you can get back to the one thing you're doing. Like, it's everybody. And I love that, because every day I get to sit and help people have the confidence that they deserve so they can see that more success, feel less stressed, and ultimately live a life where they're happier and create opportunity for other people. And at the end of the day, I think we have a great job in that we get paid well to effectively make other people happy and create opportunity for other folks. Like, your product meets a need where someone's going to be happy because they open the box. And more importantly, they're going to be happy because they open the box afterwards of what they're getting out of it.
Hope it made you smile.
Yeah, it did. It did. Absolutely. Right. Like, and you're creating jobs while doing it in a place where you're no longer having the fear of, will this work? And I don't know what to say. I don't know where to ask. And I'm lost and alone.
Yeah.
And that to me is why I do it. Like, that's the, like, oh, that's my thing. I found my thing in life. Like, great. It's awesome. And so I really appreciate it, because I get to have chats with people like you all day where you're just like, yeah, this is great. I love it. What else? Like, give me more. I'll just take it. And I'm like, all right, great. I'm working on it. Yeah, with that, I appreciate it. And what I'll say is, one, thank you a lot for your time. I know it's valuable. And I'll leave it, the last word, to you. If there's anything you want to say, anything that you want to, mention, or just anything we didn't talk about, like, let me try to give you the last word here, just so that it's like, not all about me, because it's not. And so with that, again, just thank you so much. And I'll leave the floor to you if there's anything else that you wanted to mention or say or talk about.
I think, like, for me, like, in the space of 12 months, we've basically gone from being in a position where it's like, can this actually even sustain itself, or like be viable? And perhaps I should do this, perhaps I should start an agency, or perhaps I should maybe even go and get a job whilst I do this, or should I do that? And now we're at a point where, literally, because of this system, the business is at a point where I'm thinking about, how can we set it up so in 3 to 5 years time I can sell this thing? So I've gone from a position of being like, okay, what am I going to do next month, to I'm going to do this for the next 5 years, and then we're going to be in a position to, move on to the next thing. So having the confidence to think that far ahead makes me sleep easily at night and actually enjoy what I do every day. So yeah, I think that's probably the perfect way to wrap it up, really.
I love it. I love it, man. Well, thank you so much, dude. I'll talk to you later, dude. I appreciate it. I know it's getting late in the evening for you, so I'll let you enjoy yourself, and you take care, man.
I'll see you tomorrow in the NBA, Thursday, isn't it?
That's right. I'll see you then. Bye, buddy.
Tomorrow. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
See ya.